Hello.
A 21st century audio pioneer, Hartford Online Radio Network. OnTheHORN.com.
And good evening. It's another edition of News Talk Tonight. I'm Dave Moore. With me in the studio is Brian Lee, thank God, and Jen Just on the phone. Thank God.
Are you guys starting at 7:20? This is what happens when I'm not in the studio?
You know, what can I say? I was trying to put things together. And, you know, when I've had a full day in court, the brain is kind of mushy. What can I say?
I can imagine.
So, aside from, you know, the debate last night, which was also kind of mushy, News Talk Tonight is brought to you by Amazon.com, Gateway Financial Partners, Santa's Travel Shipper Technologies, Budwitz and Meyer Jack CPAs, Deepwater Seafood of Avon, and CentralCTDental.com. I watched the debate last night. I did not watch Monday Night Football, as Brian pointed out, was the actual real opponent for both the president and Mitt Romney. And I also saw the fourth debate for the Connecticut U.S. Senate. I did not see the debate.
I did not see that.
I did not see the 5th District debate, which had to have been really interesting because it was held in New Britain at a theater, Central Connecticut State University.
Yeah.
They were running at the time the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Very nice. Well done.
So you have as a background for
well, the
Roraback,
audience was interesting anyway.
You had in the background for Roraback and Esty a pair of big lipstick lips. It was fantastic.
Making it seem so much more interesting than it actually... Well, it's a pretty interesting race, though.
It is. It's one of the more interesting races in Connecticut. The second is kind of a snooze. You've only seen ads from the incumbent. The third is kind of a snooze. You've only seen a couple of ads from the incumbent. I haven't seen any ads for John Larson. The first, pretty much a snooze.
If you would like to get his opponent on, he's a friend. I can get him for you.
That might be something to
I know we've got like 13 days left or whatever it is, but hey,
next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can certainly give him. I've given him Brian's card and his name.
Yeah.
We can do that and hook up at the end of the show, and I'm sure I can get John's stuff for you.
And Representative Himes, which I will follow up on this week, Representative Himes in the 4th is pretty much running another snoozer. There really hasn't been any ads on TV for anything other than the 5th and the Senate.
And the Senate, yeah.
And didn't Linda McMahon pretty much buy up all the ad time?
And if she didn't buy it up as a Republican, she bought it up as an independent.
It's amazing.
Have you seen that ad?
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for Obama, but I'm also going to vote for McMahon.
Vote for Linda.
Wow.
I think that ad was a technical error. I think she lost some votes there.
According to CTNewsJunkie.com, there is an article about the blowback to the GOP, particularly state headquarters getting flooded with calls.
I know, I love it.
Saying, what? What is she saying?
Now, if I was Jerry Labriola, though, I probably would not have admitted that somehow. I would have found some other way of, I don't know. The fact that he admitted it, just, I don't know.
There was nothing that there was nothing he could do. He was pretty much painted in a corner. Nonetheless, you also had the New Jersey blimp, Governor Christie, in town yesterday, barnstorming, the barn really was storming for Linda McMahon, and not once was the word Republican, nor was the name Mitt Romney ever mentioned.
Interesting.
In any of the 3 stops that they did. Wow.
Where did they go?
Well,
Do you have the
let's
stops?
see. I have here an article from CT News Junkie. Christie paints path to victory for Linda McMahon. Let's see here. I'm not seeing it.
What I don't understand is it's not like Romney. I mean, he's not doing horribly badly in the state. I mean, he's it's like 10 or 12 points, but or is it even that now? I mean, it's been closer than that. So
what, as far as Romney and Obama?
Yeah.
It's 8.
Yeah.
And it was 12.
Right. So it's pretty close. So why they're sort of running away from this is the problem with Republicans in Connecticut. They don't know who they are.
I'm sorry. It was 1 rally, not 3. It was 1 rally. I saw it on 3 different stations. That's why I was thinking 3. Again, talk to Dave after going to court, and you never know what's going to come out. Anyways, it was a specific rally set up for Christie to basically run the table for Linda. And like I said, not once was the word Republican raised. Not once was Governor Romney mentioned. And this is Chris Christie, for several months, Mitt's right-hand man in the Northeast.
Yeah.
So that was a very interesting pivot for Governor Christie. We also have in the news the state comptroller is going to be issuing a new letter to the governor indicating that our deficit is climbing or descending, as depending on how you look at, down to or up to $60.1 million.
Wait a minute. There's a difference between those two.
Yeah.
The deficit is growing or shrinking?
The
growing,
deficit is growing. Yes. Okay. We are descending into the red.
I see. Gotcha.
We are
That's
falling further. Yeah. Well, again, and this is something that, I was trolling CT News Junkie earlier, and, there were a number of folks who were saying, this is once again Mr. Barnes not being honest, or Governor Malloy not being honest with us about the numbers. Folks, if you were actually paying attention, Medicaid screwed us up the first time that there was an announcement as to a deficit. And frankly, it's still doing so. And apparently we're going to get another $50 million hit if we don't get a certain waiver for Medicaid approved. Now, that would require knocking 13,000 people off of the rolls. That would be bad. But if they stay on the rolls, then our deficit apparently will climb to 110 million.
Now, did this come out before or after Malloy? Didn't Malloy just this week say that he was not going to raise taxes next year?
As a matter of fact, he mentioned to a group of town CEOs, Malloy to local officials, I don't intend to raise taxes.
Oh, I see. Intend.
You see, the municipal coalition actually tried to get him to promise not to raise taxes, but he didn't quite say that. He said that as a former mayor of Stamford, he fully understood and was able to do the Clintonian, I feel your pain.
Knowing Malloy, I'm sorry, but that is basically saying I'm going to raise taxes. Because Malloy is if he's not going to raise taxes, he says he's not going to raise taxes.
Right.
He's basically saying he's going to raise taxes.
No, he's basically saying, I'm leaving the door really wide open.
Gives him a way out.
Right.
Because I know that having hiked taxes a year ago by $1 billion and we're still dealing with deficits, nobody's happy. But one of the other things that I pointed out to a couple of the naysayers on CT News Junkie was, hey, remember last year? That was $1 billion. That was a lot of money we owed.
Mm-hmm.
And if we didn't do something about it, our credit rating was going to go way low. And one of the reasons why we're not having to pay as much for our debt servicing, there was $20 million that had been earmarked for debt service. In other words, paying the interest on the loans that the state has.
Right.
That's money we are not going to have to spend because we didn't get further devalued. We didn't get further devalued because we made good on our $1 billion last year. And
Yes.
Nobody is saying anything about it. It's like, guys, really? Let's think about this for a second. $1 billion. That's one with 9 zeros. 9, not 7 like a million. 9.
$1 billion.
$1 billion. Billions and billions. Thank you, late Carl Sagan. But anyways, we took care of it. And now we're getting folks who are complaining about how, once again, we are dealing with a deficit. Gee, I guess Governor Malloy can't fire anybody thanks to that CBAC agreement. Well, actually, no, he could, but it would be for cause, and it's a lot harder to fire somebody for cause. But
Well, Republicans, too, are going to seize on anything they can, you know.
And the fact of the matter is, it was both a Republican governor and a Republican and Democratic legislature that led us down this particular rabbit hole for 2 decades. Everybody was kicking the can down the road.
Right.
Nobody wanted to deal with the fact that at some point in time, gee, we've underfunded the pensions by hundreds of millions of dollars. What are we going to do about that? Next year. No, 2 years later. That's even better. Okay.
Push that off a little.
Why not? And then there was the issue of, well, we were also dealing with ratings back then, too. There was some question by Moody's about a dozen years ago about our AAA getting knocked down to AAA minus or AA plus. Now, what does that mean? It means we would be paying higher interest rates. And it was kind of floated that might happen. So we pared the budget back about 12 years ago so that it wasn't quite as exorbitant. And we put a little more money into the pensions, and Moody said, okay, you're good. But, all it did really was to kick the can down the road. And now we're paying the piper. And, geez, somebody had to bite the bullet because we couldn't keep doing it anymore, I guess. Nonetheless, we also chose one of the worst economic times ever to suddenly bring ourselves into budgetary alignment with, what we really should be doing. Oh, by the way, haven't noticed yet as to whether or not a certain campaign promise is also being kicked down the can. The can is being kicked down the road again, and that is the using a particular accounting principle.
Oh, that's right. The generally accepted accounting GAAP.
Yeah,
right?
GAAP. And there's even the modified GAAP for governments, which takes into account how certain things, you're not supposed to deal with estimates at all in GAAP. Modified GAAP, you get to deal with some estimates, but there's a limitation, which is why we never used GAAP before, because in order for us to spend like drunken sailors, we had to estimate how much money we were actually going to bring in. And we were going to have to estimate how much money we would have to give back to the federal government.
Didn't they even say this year that it was too expensive to try to implement this year?
Yeah,
Which
even
means
though we
how
set
could
aside
it be less expensive to do it next year?
even though we set aside $150 million to do just that. Oh, I'm sorry. Part of that money got used to pay down the $1 billion. Okay.
Exactly. So do we think Malloy is a one-term governor?
I honestly don't think so. and here's why. I think that Foley is let's put it this way. The jaws are slathering. He is waiting to come out and say, "I told you so," in about another year.
Right.
By
Is he already saying it?
Well, he has been saying it, but nobody's been listening.
He'll have a megaphone in another year.
In another year, there's going to be active campaigning.
People listening to him.
So people will try to tune in. They're not tuning in now.
Right.
And at that point in time, though, is going to be one small problem. The economy will have already been regenerating itself to an extent that whoever is president is going to be able to say, "See, look what I did," even though they had absolutely nothing to do with it. And at that point in time, the budgeting process for the governor is going to be a lot simpler. And he's going to be able to bring some of the money back into programs that he was cutting and come out looking like a hero. Plus the unions, he will have made nice with the unions by then. At which point in time, he's good for 2014.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But unless the state Republican Party comes up with another, I don't know, Representative Ryan, because Foley's old school.
Yeah.
The only way that they would be able to really rock the Democrats' world is to come out with somebody who is telegenic, who is able to think on his feet. And I can't think of any female Republicans who can do that at the moment. That's why I use the male pronoun. I'm not trying to be sexist here. But, I mean, even Jody in her best wasn't a real great thinking on her feet type of person.
You don't think Linda would run for governor should she not win the Senate, when she doesn't win the Senate?
That would be a pay cut of monstrous proportions.
Anything would be a pay cut compared to what she's doing now. But I do think, I think that's too lowly for her. Actually, governing, I think, would be kind of
It would be problematic for three reasons. First, again, the pay cut aspect. I mean, a senator makes more than a sitting governor. That's one thing.
I don't think money is of interest to her.
No, but lobbyists are. And she would not be in touch with all the big name lobbyists like she would be down in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And therein lies, you see, it's not so much what you do for 6 or 12 or 18 years. For Linda, it would probably be 12, given her age. It's the contacts that you make and setting yourself up for after you've sat as a senator for 1 or 2 terms. That's what is interesting her. Okay.
Interesting. Hadn't thought of that.
That, and also you are one of 100. You get to make interesting rules, and as a junior senator, of course, the only rule that you're making is who gets to cut you in front of the the cafe, the lunch line, pretty much, the cafeteria. Great food there, by the way. But now, as a junior senator, and particularly newly elected junior senator, you're lucky your office isn't by the furnace.
Yes.
So, but after 4 or 6 years, once you've pretty much cut your teeth and you've proven you can speak on the floor, then you might be given additional stuff. Oh, that's not one of Linda's strong points, is it? Oops. Anyways.
She's proven to us that she almost understands how a bill becomes a law. She just doesn't understand how, actual elected officials are involved in that process.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Well, yeah, there you go.
I know, exactly. If she watched PBS, she would know.
All she needed was "I'm just a bill."
Hey, I like that one.
They were awesome.
That was one of the ones that inspired me.
It stuck with you forever.
Now, did anyone other than myself actually have a chance to read online Slate?
I did. When you sent me that note. I read it.
Now, interesting article, Romney rising, question mark.
John Dickerson, good writer.
Excellent writer. Scares the living daylights out of me because he's making some good points, and these are points that neither campaigns really are paying attention to. Now, you might ask, why is that important for Connecticut? Because this is Connecticut news, News Talk Tonight. Well, if either one of them gets elected, it's going to have an impact on our major industry. That's defense. Okay? If it's not United Technologies, it's, United Technologies. Sorry. Pratt & Whitney, Electric Boat, all United Technologies. And there's Hamilton Sundstrand and a few others. You know, at one point we were like... Sikorsky, yes. At one point we were doing tanks at Hamilton Sundstrand. It was pretty interesting. Not the full thing, just the parts. Parts is parts. Right. If Romney gets elected, he has specifically said that he is going to do stuff for the Navy. That makes New London really, really happy. It also makes Virginia, Norfolk in particular, really, really happy.
Yeah, but even Joe Courtney the other day said, I appreciate that he wants to build 3 boats or whatever, but I don't see where we'd get the money to do it.
Well, given the fact that he's still stuck in 1916, I'm really not sure that he's going to know what to do with New London, but that's neither here nor there.
What scares me, though, Dave, is that the stuff he was saying last night was scary. He doesn't even know that Syria is not contiguous to Iran, and it does not provide, access to the sea. Like, that's basic geography, and he doesn't get that.
He was talking about Hezbollah and Lebanon. Oh, they're not contiguous either. Oops.
And not to mention this disastrous tour. I mean, someone was joking last night on Facebook, which was, by the way, the greatest way to watch the debate. It was just hilarious. Someone said, Romney should be doing an apology tour for the gaffes that he made over the summer. I mean, to offend, like, our closest ally by questioning the way the Olympics are organized. I mean, all the things that he said while he was, I mean, it's scary to me that he could become commander-in-chief. And the things he says about China, well, everyone says that stuff about China before they get elected, but still.
He messed up.
This is not small stuff.
No, it's not. And you've got Europe in, as Brian would say, a parlous state. We were making fun of Brian and his pronunciation of leisure. Europe still is in a perilous position right now economically. The only 2 countries that are actually keeping their heads financially above water are Great Britain and Germany. And Germany's already dealing with a backlash of the austerity programs. France has voted their way out of austerity programs by virtue of their electing a socialist president. And it was very clear that the French were rejecting the austerity programs that they thought were authored by the Germans, and they thought correctly. And as a result, you've got a moving target economically with Europe. Then you've got Spain, Portugal, and Greece, who are continuously teetering on the brink of financial Armageddon. And you've got Germany trying to prop them up. You've got Great Britain trying to keep a stiff upper lip. And then you have Romney waltz in there and mangle the minority leader's not only name, but his title.
Yeah.
With, as it's not... It was wonderful that he at least remembered that the guy was a member of Parliament. But, it was amazing that he remembered that, in fact, Parliament does, in fact, rule Great Britain, as opposed to referring to the Queen.
Whoever.
Yeah.
Controversy.
And then he goes to Poland. And it's amazing that the Poles didn't actually, set him on fire with a couple of the gaffes that I'm sorry, it was Romney's campaign.
Right.
A couple of the operatives that made their gaffes there. But, it's almost as if watching him last night was a lot like watching the not ready for primetime players playing president.
Yeah.
And it was almost as if, hey, I did really well the first time. I held my own the second time. So give me a pass. Have a nice day. Oh, by
Well,
the way, everything the president's doing, I agree with.
and the thing is, sadly, and I thought this before the debate, and I don't care what the polls said after the debate. I just think the third debate really didn't mean much in the end, because the important debate was the first one, and it really didn't matter how poorly people felt Obama did, but people all of a sudden saw Romney as plausible.
Yeah,
They hadn't really seen him as plausible before, because they'd heard all these gaffes and seen all these things, and then all of a sudden he's standing up there being presidential and a little bit pugnacious, which I personally kind of hate and think is rude, but other people seem to like. And plausibility was all a lot of people needed to say, okay, I'll vote for that guy, because he's not, sorry, I'm not going to say it, but
Here's the thing. You had a candidate going after another candidate in a way that was pugnacious, yes. But the difference is the candidate that the candidate was going after is the sitting president of the United States.
Right.
indeed.
There is a certain level of courtesy that you accord the leader of the free world.
One would think, and yet there is a significant portion of this country, sadly, which do not believe that he is accorded that.
For a number of reasons, some of which may or may not actually hold water, whether it's racial, whether it's because he has been painted as a liberal or not, I don't know. But it really, it boggles my mind. Not only do you have the, hey, do the numbers, they don't add up, not resonating, because if you do, I mean, Clinton was right. If you look at what they are trying to do as far as the tax cuts are concerned, on top of the budgetary cuts that they don't specify, and then you add back in what you've got as far as the war is concerned, as far as everything else, you're ending up adding to the deficit to the tune of about $1.5 to almost $2 trillion. Gee. But they care about the deficit. They care an awful lot. That's why they want to see it grow. You know, it's like growing something. They're green thumbs with the deficit.
Yes.
I find it all a little, I don't know if perplexing is the right word, but it's scary to me, the sort of, it just seems that the bar for what's plausible has been held very, very, very low for Romney. Like, they're just looking for any excuse not to vote for Barack. But I have to say, I just think when it comes to the ground game, Obama has got that infrastructure that he's been building, that he had strong in 2008 and had kept, and is there. And I think also the media likes a horse race. I mean, it is interesting. I mean, the polls are reflecting what the media is saying, and I just wonder if it's all kind of like this sort of loop.
Have you seen the numbers for some of the early voting thus far?
No.
Wisconsin, Ohio, 59 to 31.
They can show the results?
They know the Secretary of
based
State's,
on who's voted.
Right. Okay.
59 to 31 Obama?
59 Democrat, 31 Republican in both states.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's the result of the ground game, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
That's why the get out the vote, I like to call it Go TV. I mean, let's think about it. GOTV. It's Go TV.
It is Go TV.
If you use the get out the vote, if you use your ads to get out the vote, that is going to be the most cost-effective methodology. Yeah, having volunteers call people up, hey, have you got a ride? Helps. But the real thing is, hey, TV ad, it's November 6th. You need to vote. Don't forget.
Don't forget.
Yeah, I won't differ exactly. I won't beg to differ, put it that way. But getting people out knocking doors, which is what Obama has been brilliant at, and making those connections, it really does make a difference.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you had to go by ads, then Romney might win because he's had, or it would be a tie. I mean, I don't know. I think Romney's paid more money for ads, but it's that person-to-person contact. And they've even showed there was a study done that was fairly recent that was kind of surprised me with all the social media and everything these days. They say it's still good old-fashioned going and knocking on someone's door and talking to them has the biggest effect on someone going out to vote.
This is true.
Especially if it's someone that you know.
But that eats up so much time.
It does.
And
well,
that is
cost effective, yes. In terms of cost effectiveness, ads, obviously. But
that is something that neither gentleman have anymore. They have 2 weeks. The clock is now really ticking. And
well, that's what kind of excites me about Connecticut, though, because there's a lot of people out there knocking doors. I mean, you've got the House Dems, you've got every single group out there, and it's they're coordinating. And anyway,
turning briefly to Linda, aside from the "I'm going for the independence" ads, which, by the way, frighten me. Okay, because you have a number of people who are of color who are saying, I'm going to vote for Obama, but I'm also voting for Linda. And I'm thinking to myself, was that intentional? Is that an overt reach to...
Did I tell you that I talked to a couple of African-American folks who told me why that was?
No.
It was, I don't know if, maybe it was since the last time we talked, but yeah, they said that without having much more information, that the automatic response is that a woman is going to be more of the underdog than the man. And so just seeing Linda's name made them want to vote for her.
Oh, my God.
As opposed to a guy.
Cue Blumenthal ads. Folding chair overhead. Clang. Yep, that was Linda. Knee to the groin. Clunk. Yep, that was Linda. Do you want this person to be your next senator? I mean, that was, and I was speaking to an operative for the campaign, and he indicated that the lawyers were really kind of nervous. I said, first of all, since Blumenthal used it in 2010, you have a fair use argument at this point in time if you rerun it. Therefore, so much for the injunction aspect. And number two, gee, this is an election, and there's 2 weeks left. Let him sue.
Right,
it's free publicity.
Exactly.
You want to sue to keep this stuff off the TV? Really? What are you hiding?
What are you hiding?
Wow. Think about it. For the love of God. I mean, and you know that Senator Blumenthal would say, you want to use them? Sure, go right ahead. Here's the video. Here's the tape. Knock yourself out. I mean, really? Honestly, folks. I mean, serious. But the thing is, as you were saying before, Jen, that was more than likely not just a technical error. That was likely a pretty significant error because you have a number of Republicans who were calling the Republican headquarters and saying, what the F is this? What is she saying? Why is she supporting the president? Why is she not supporting Romney? That's it. I'm not voting for her.
That's the thing. It was a very confusing ad when you have someone saying, I'm voting for Obama and I'm voting for Linda. It's like, what are you talking about?
If you knock
it's such a weird message.
If you had even 20% of your base suddenly pissed off enough that they wouldn't vote.
Exactly.
Well, is that what we think the end result is going to be, that they're just not going to vote for that particular office spot?
That's what a number of people who were in the CT News Junkie article indicated.
That they would quite possible.
That they would vote, but they would not vote for that office, and they would definitely not vote for her.
Wow.
They wouldn't vote for Murphy, but they're not going to vote for her.
Well, it's weird that they wouldn't vote for Murphy.
By not
though.
voting,
that's
a
vote
for Murphy.
Pretty much.
Like if you're going to vote for Obama, why not vote straight Democrat?
Well,
if you're, I mean,
nationally, you're seeing that as a greater possibility more than you've ever seen in the last 16 years. There is a greater sense of voter identification, party identification, and there's also the sense that some folks have woken up to hell no, and we're going to make sure he's a one-term president.
In the chat room, it says the message that they're trying to get out is that we know Obama is going to win Connecticut because he's a Democrat, but don't count out voting for Linda just because she's a Republican.
Right. She's independent. It's the independent voice that she's trying to reach out to.
Or the still undecided, which blows my mind at this point. How can you be undecided? Have you not opened a newspaper? Have you not turned on a television? Have you not turned on a computer? I hate these. I hate them all at this point.
I was talking to another guy this last Friday who, very intelligent person, fairly well connected as far as not as far as politics in particular are concerned, but is paying attention to everything and cannot understand for the life of him how there could be 17% who still haven't made up their mind. And
it blows my mind.
But keep in mind that you're dealing with that. Okay, the polls are saying 17% undecided. Half the time you've got people who are saying that they're undecided. They are not. They just don't want to say what they're doing.
Yes,
and is the 17%, is that state level or is that national level?
State level.
State level, okay.
Undecideds now, if I remember correctly, is about 5% nationally.
Nationally, okay.
Which is about right for where we're at.
For where we are, yeah. That's almost
your
margin of error, so
right.
That makes sense.
Now,
sorry.
Go ahead, Jen.
No, this is sort of slightly different from what you're talking about, but I just think the Republican Party in the state has just made a huge blunder by picking Jerry Labriola, who's a Tea Party guy, and far to the right of what most of Connecticut Republicans are. They've boxed themselves in because normally, I mean, if they had sort of stayed, with more moderate message, then Rohrabaugh and Linda would have more of a shot. But the Republican
and
Party gets
support.
all the righty folks all excited, and then these guys they have a hard time. Guy and woman theoretically, have a hard time making a case that they could make any difference in Washington, and that they represent the Republican Party in Connecticut.
Look at how the ads have run as far as Rohrabaugh and Esty are concerned. Esty clearly has the National Democratic Party's support.
Exactly.
Okay. There are a couple of ads that Rohrabaugh has run that are funded by the National Republicans, but for the most part, they're his ads. And the only indication that you had that he was being supported by the Republican Party as a whole was Boehner and Kissinger running fundraisers. Okay. And I love Henry to death. I think that he was an awesome Secretary of State for the time. I think that he has been woefully out of touch as far as world politics is concerned for the last 15 years. Yeah. For as long as it's been that we haven't had a USSR. But he's a very smart guy. Right now, though, he is up there in age to such a point that they are basically propping him up and saying, okay, totter over here and make a phone call. Thanks. Okay, run a dinner for us now. Great.
That was
See
not
you
the
next
first
year, Henry.
tier of Republican surrogates that they were looking at there.
But Boehner was.
Boehner was, absolutely, yeah.
And Boehner was only able to raise $50,000 for him.
He should have had a Scotch dinner.
That.
He should have had a Scotch dinner, because let me tell you what, that guy knows his way around a bottle of Scotch. He knows his booze. He's a former bartender. He knows his booze. Oh, yeah.
Well, the other thing is, too, you would rather run a meal fundraiser that is heavy on the libations because that's when they start spending.
When the pocketbooks come out. Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
I meant that honestly. He knows his way around booze. That's a perfect fundraiser. But gas them up and send them on their way.
The problem, though, is that the article that was in CT News Junkie was interesting. How Esty was nailing him, sort of, for flip flopping on the death penalty. Well, in reality, he didn't exactly flip flop on the death penalty, but nonetheless, she did that so as to rattle his base.
Right.
Okay, and the fact of the matter is, she is actually beginning to surge in the 5th District, which is really, really interesting. I can tell you, having driven to Litchfield Superior Court yesterday, there are a surprising number of SD signs in Litchfield. You wouldn't think that.
Really?
It's a Republican area. My dear beloved aunt who lives in Woodbury would make a rock rib Republican from New Hampshire blush with some of the things. Now, she's not Tea Party. Don't get me wrong there. But she is an Eisenhower Republican. Okay? And there are still some of those left in Connecticut. That's one of the wonderful things about Connecticut, that, you know, we're it's almost like we're a petri dish. If we could just grow a few more of them, we might actually have a reasonable party on the other side. But no, that's not happening. Nonetheless, Woodbury, hardcore Republican. A good section of the Litchfield County really is fairly Republican, fairly red. Nonetheless, with New Britain, Waterbury, Torrington being the largest populated areas in the 5th, SD has more than just a passing shot. And Murphy's numbers have also started to climb after the debates. Shock, shock, surprise, surprise.
Right.
And it's interesting how after the debates really began to show that he was picking up steam, that's when more attack ads came out, and that's when you see her trying to grab the independents with the latest ad. I agree with you, Jen. I think that it was an error. I think that it was more than a technical error, however. I think that it was a gross miscalculation because...
I think I meant tactical, but yeah.
Well, no, I understand what you mean. Tactical, technical, it doesn't really matter. This was a gross error.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing it was like Wolfgang with the Family Institute saying, well, you know, I'm not as... What I said in my endorsement doesn't count anymore.
Oh, that's right.
What the frig does that mean? Well, we're starting to see what that means. It means that the red meat Republicans who were definitively going to be voting for Linda en masse are not so sure anymore. And that is when you have to shore up your base within 2 weeks of the election, that's blood in the water.
Yeah.
That's what
thing.
That's
now
what get the
when
fins
you go to
going.
Your base, it's not persuasion anymore. Like, as of today, it's get out the vote.
And she needs the independent vote more than anything else. And if she has to pivot in order to protect her flank with her base, she ain't going to do that well. And it may not be 100,000, but it's going to be a fairly substantial, even 50,000 would be a fairly, given how much money has been poured into this, that would be a substantial loss on her part. No amount of spin that you could put to that. Well, Jen, you've been amazing staying with us for as long as you have.
I know. I'm actually lying on the floor, and I was going to tell you earlier, if you heard this panting in the background, it was not me. It's the dog sitting next to me, wondering why I'm lying on the floor.
How's your back?
It's awful, thank you. But I can't resist. Like, this is just too interesting. Hopefully I'll be back. I mean, I won't be up there because I'm really still not supposed to drive.
Hey, another
but I'll
call in
call
next week would be awesome.
It's all possible.
It's that time.
It is that time. I hear the music.
Brian Lee, thank you for joining within and helping with the chat. Jen, I always do better when I have intelligent people to talk with.
Aw.
When I'm talking with myself, yeah, there's intelligence, but it doesn't work so well. We kept a bunch of viewers. I gotta tell you. Hey, see you next week, Jen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Folks, you've been listening to News Talk Tonight on the Horn, and we're brought to you by Gateway Financial Partners, Sandits Travel, Sherpa Technologies, Budwitz and Meyer Jack, Deepwater Seafood of Avon, CentralCTDental.com, and Amazon.com. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening.
Fully operational. Fully engaged. On the horn. On the horn.